Доброе утро. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our promotional webinar, first in the series of webinars about Russian retailers and Russian trade. The theme for today's sessions is very much about disruption. So I will start the webinar talking about the disruptive retailers, which we see were disruptive retailers before the pandemic, but now are becoming a new normal for FMCG shopping. My colleague Ray Gall will talk about the new wave of disruption, and our guest speakers have their own topics. So Yelena will talk about the online retail and disruption that online bringing and what's happening next, whereas Pavel will present a Merry case study from Europe. Well, disruptors are retailers who change the traditional way industry operates. They take shares from established retail models, retail channels such as convenience, hypermarkets. We can now say that these retailers are not really disruptors, but the new normal for FMCG and grocery shopping.
When you mention private labels, I think I agree with you on the need for private labels. But what about manufacturing capacity? Do you think there is enough manufacturing capacity that will allow retailers like X5 and Magnit to launch hard discounters with high share of private labels at a large scale?
Well, yeah, it's a good question, and I think this is clearly a challenge for X5 and Magnit too. I guess it depends what companies are going to agree to produce private labels for them, right? I mean, we have seen that some of the large branded manufacturers sometimes make a choice to produce their main brands, but also have private label lines.
With the hard discounters specifically, and maybe some of the other discounters, what's your view? Are external companies, from outside of Russia going to be entering Russia soon?
It's a good question, and I think this question has been around for many years. I think in the current environment, political and economical environment, it's quite difficult for international retailers to enter Russia. And on top of this, I think it's also going to be very difficult for them to grow quickly unless they're going to make an acquisition.
Which business model do you think is going to develop faster from a supplier's perspective? So selling more volume or getting additional sales. Will it be physical retailers or the sort of delivery business model? Quick commerce.
It's a good question. I still think that the physical retail is very important, right? Because people are I believe that they are not going to stop going to stores and physical retail, and also because it's still a very large. I mean, it's the majority of retail business is still physical, so it's not going to go anywhere. But I think it's going to transform, and also I think when it comes to new categories or niche products, right, or some products which are growing faster than others, there we will see perhaps a bigger volume growth in online and in express deliveries. Now I'd like to talk about these 5 things that Russian retailers are working on, or I call them the 5 battles that we see are happening in 2022. Some brands I just put on the shelf next to private labels, whereas others, in case of oatmeal, I hope you can see, they have a printed for Vkusvil on the packaging. The one which I think is the most interesting is the one on top on the left side, where there is a sticker on Almeta cheese. The sticker says Vkusvil approved. Shoppers start to build trust in Svetofor quality image because they see these familiar brands which give an indication of quality, and this image transcends to the entire store, to the entire Svetofor model. With inflation hike last year, both because of the supply and demand factors, price image is under threat for many retailers. But what we see is that majority of retailers in Russia are communicating low prices every day, but in practice, they play the same promotional strategies they have always played, forcing shoppers to spend time searching for items on promotions. For examples on this slide, also you see Lenta promises everyday low price on a limited range, but in practice it's just a very long and random list of products which are on promotion, so not very convenient to go through. And well, the next battle is the battle for private label. So well, we have to be careful talking about private label because for many years, share of private labels in Russia was behind European average. But now we believe that this will change. And now we believe that there are real drivers for private label evolution. The first is online, it's the virtual shelf. Finally, I would say that another catalyst for private label development is going to be large retailers such as X5 and Magnit, who decided to enter the discount format and decided to, well, essentially compete with Svetofor. So what we see is that the market of express delivery is becoming very competitive and is consolidating. Smaller companies are simply, they cannot operate in this space for long. The way is given to bigger companies who have financial cushion from other businesses in their portfolio, such as Sberbank and Yandex. So this battle is extremely important for retailers, and also there is this implication for branded manufacturers. And this battle is quite interesting because urban grocery retail is a lot more fragmented than total, because there's still lots of traditional trades, small stores in cities. So there is an opportunity for retailers to grow in this space. However, this opportunity comes at a higher cost. So Vkusvil leads the way in testing new things and new concepts in urban retailing, such as cashierless stores and vending machines. And I think the point is that there's so many things happening, and they're happening so quickly. And retailers are changing their strategies, and some of the retailers are even bending their rules, that manufacturers have to watch out for a lot of things in Russia to keep track of these new opportunities.
Maybe first and foremost, we start by saying that investment community perceives the Russian e-commerce sector as one of the most attractive in the world. And that is for the obvious reason, because the total addressable market size is huge and penetration is very low. The research agencies we used for market data suggest that penetration of online retail last year was around 11% in Russia. And longer term, you think of this possibly being 50% in big cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, maybe some of the bigger ones, and over 20% penetration in smaller Russian towns. We see some light at the end of the tunnel, and we basically assume that the online marketplace model can start generating profits sometime in 2024, 2025, in Ozon's case in particular. Another point to discuss and flag is that the key discussion topic among investors in e-commerce in Russia is competition. And the question is quite an important one, because Russian e-commerce is one of the most competitive markets globally. And fragmentation is basically your top 3 players are only 1/3 of the market. 45% of consumers that we surveyed are regular online shoppers who buy something online at least once a week. Only 5% buy online every day. So there is still lots of upside, because the other 55% are still shopping online, not frequently enough, and frequency can be higher. Conclusion number 5 is that the most preferred platforms last year, same as the year before, were Ozon and Wildberries. And these two lead by far on almost all metrics. Whether you ask about delivery or assortment breadth or convenience, they are in the lead. Again, to remind a few numbers, that the market surged about 2.5 times last year. And the expectation is that e-grocery is going to double this year to about 700 billion rubles.
So let's begin with global finance. I'll let you look at the chart on the right. So you'll notice the number of billionaires in North America is roughly around 650. In Latin America, it's not, it's much smaller. Europe is not that big, and that includes Russia with 100 billionaires in Russia. And you see this sort of pink blob over on the right that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's already at 800 billionaires. From a very practical retail perspective, if you're trying, like Svetofore or Koosville, to build 2,000 stores in a nice chain and internationalize that chain, where do you look for inspiration? Do you go look in Dallas, Texas to get the latest ideas to grow your market share in Russia or in China or in Germany? That case study is a company called Miniso. They design the products that they're selling on their own. They have a $10 strategy. So in the United States, they actually say that in our stores, everything is $10 or less. The triangle offense is 3 parts. So design, where the designers are the best, which is in Scandinavia, Japan, South Korea. Production, where production is best. So that's in China, using 900 different manufacturing facilities. And then marketing and entertainment and franchising are done using local rules, conditions, ideas. We heard Pavel talk about that, which is, he said one of the key factors that Marriott thinks about when they're going into new territory is the local commercial environment. Can they get sites? What does the competition look like? All of these companies, whether it's Miniso or Marriott, that are being disruptive, use that same idea. This is a very big difference between retailers, is this idea of how many things, how many ideas do you bring to me in a sales meeting? So we've got on the extreme side, Svetofore/Marriott, who's saying, give me the one idea that's going to work. We've got on this side, we've got them saying, please bring 10,000 different ideas. I would encourage you to look at it as an opportunity. And this is the idea that we should embrace new retail as a way to make free investments that shoppers will reward you for. So it could either save the shopper time, which is highly likely. It could save the shopper money, which depends on the retailer. But most importantly, it makes the shopper happy. I don't have to fight with someone to find parking. I don't have to wait in line. I don't have to think ahead to find a time slot. I don't need to be at home. And we're seeing retailers in Russia and all over the world experiment with this. We think it's going to explode. So what I would encourage you to think about is, in my opinion, the buyer side personality is the one that you need to pay attention to. That's the personality that's going to attract investment. That's the personality that's going to win the battles. Fourth industrial revolution, don't look at formats, store designs, all that. That's not where the changes take place. Look on the procurement side and the efficiency side. And we're now seeing that being brave in ESG is no longer niche, saying we don't need to align with our parent company. We need to go in a new direction. And this is very, very much important as we think about embracing the new normal, embracing the new wave of shoppers who are 18 years old. I believe that suppliers, which is you in the audience, you're well equipped to lead this next wave of disruption if you change the way you think about the world. If we embrace this idea that there's a lot of new ideas, there's a lot of new waves of retail coming, we can embrace agility in having multiple pack price setups, spend more time with a wider mix of retailers and channels, and worry less about shelf space, and you'll be quite successful.